I rode into the yard expecting silence and vultures and found 7 women waiting on the porch like a jury already sworn. The boards looked newly swept, though the rest of the place wore dust that takes years to settle. My grandfather's brand still hung above the door, 2 crossed spurs tilted, stubborn as the man. I had planned to camp, take inventory, file papers, and sell what couldn't be salvaged. Then I saw the photographs. Each woman held one, same stock, same image, my face, taken recently, eyes narrowed against a sun I couldn't place. The eldest stepped down first. Silver braid, black dress faded along the seams. "You're late, Silas," she said, greeting. A son and a debtor at once. "I don't know you," I answered, hating how it sounded like a boy standing on a lie. "I'm Maggie." "We know you don't remember. He said you'd say that." "Who said?" "Your grandfather." Something in me closed a door. The lawyer's wire had called this place abandoned, taxes handled, cattle gone. He hadn't mentioned 7 women. Clutching my likeness like saints' cards, a woman to Maggie's right tapped her photograph with a nail. Red hair under a kerchief, eyes that weighed men. "I'm Clarabelle," she said. "We'll do this plain. Tell us where you kept the letters, and we'll know you're him. If you can't..." She let the rest hang with the heat. "I brought papers," I said, touching my saddlebag. "Deed, probate." Maggie's mouth made a patient line. "Not?" "Town papers, his letters to you. He told us you'd bring them when you came home." Home, reckless word. I'd moved too often to believe in it. Yet the gate hung the way my hands learned as a boy 3 nails where 2 would do, and the rain. Beryl wore a rope splice I'd swear was mine. The ground tilted under ideas I'd nailed down years ago. "I don't have letters," I said. "I never got any." "You did," Maggie said, not angry, just sure you were small. Fever took the memory. "You'd come arguing with your own?" Life he promised us. They watched like coyotes, not hungry yet, but aware of what hunger does to manners. I swung down and touched a photograph. The paper was stiff and new. My eyes in it were guarded, as if I'd been practicing at feeling nothing. Whoever took it had been close. "Why the pictures?" I asked. "Why wait?" "Because this house remembers you even when you don't," Maggie said. "Because he promised you'd come and ask." "What am I supposed to ask?" "Who we are," she said, lifting her chin to the door. "And why the truth wanted witnesses." I could have turned my horse and let doubts trot behind me like dogs I refused to feed. Instead, I looped the reins over the hitching post my palm had smoothed, though I couldn't have said when. The air smelled of sun-baked pine and old soap. My chest felt crowded, like I wore a coat meant for a broader man. "All right," I said. "If I'm late, I'd better start." Clarabelle's mouth twitched approval or threat. I couldn't tell. Maggie turned the knob. The door sighed as if it had been keeping secrets at a low boil. I followed the 7 strangers into the dim, and the light behind us folded itself small and stayed outside. Cool lived in the house, thick walls, shut curtains, the end of work. Quilts folded, boots paired. Maggie didn't light a lamp. She moved like someone who trusted this dark. I followed the whisper of her dress and my own loud pulse. "We'll talk plain," Clarabelle said. "Time's stingy. Men with paper are stingier." "I brought paper," I answered, and heard how small it was here. The front room stopped me. Frames crowded the walls, tintypes, and new prints, cheek to cheek. My face kept appearing. Me at a river with a fish I don't remember. Me on a railcar platform I don't recall. Me 2 winters ago leaning on a fence in a coat I'd since lost. "Those were sent here," Maggie said. "Sometimes by him. Sometimes by folks who knew better than to send them anywhere else. Once by you." "I never..." "You did," she sighed. "You were 7. The stamp was crooked. You drew a sun on the back. Then fever took its tithe." Clarabelle touched my sleeve steady. "The letters," she said. "Where are they?" "What letters?" "Earl's letters to you," Maggie answered. "About the work. About what you'd inherit besides boards and dust. He said you'd walk in holding them like a spine. I didn't get a single one." The lawyer's name tasted like chalk. The G.C.G. Younger women made a small sound together, agreement with a world that behaves as it does. "Show us what you did bring," Clarabelle said. I emptied my saddlebag. Probate order, tax receipts, a brand book photograph, a survey with the creek drawn. Wrong. Against the wall of my own face, the stack looked like a child's steamboat smoke certain. Boiler guessed. Maggie didn't touch it. He came with town paper, just as Earl feared. Earl, I said. My grandfather. She nodded. A small frame snagged me. A child's drawing pencil sun with too many spokes, a square house, stick figures holding hands. At the bottom, my friends at Grandpa's house. Beside the tallest stick, a crooked name, Silas. My bad, S. The room tipped. Air tasted like iron. I remembered a cot that smelled like soap and a cool rag on my forehead while a clock barked. The Grun. Memory came near, then fled. The shame stayed. Sit, Clarabelle said, sliding a chair with her heel. I sat. The 7 placed themselves by habit, window latch, poker, doorway ready, like a crew that had practiced taking weather broadside. What am I meant to inherit? I asked. Work, risk, witness, Maggie said. And a room will show. You when you can stand to see it. What room? The one he built while the law looked elsewhere, she said. Where wrong men learned to stop long enough for us to breathe. Speak cleaner, I said. You'll hear it clean, Clarabelle said, but start by telling the truth. I don't have the letters. Saying it felt like letting a rope slide from my palm. They nodded, not like catching me out, but like a clock striking. Maggie's shoulders loosened. Then you're earlier than we feared. Letters take time. Belief takes longer. Maybe you needed to meet your own face first. What happens now? I asked. Now, Maggie said, turning toward the narrow hall, we show you the room. If you're still here after, we tell you the rest. The hallway breathed soap and cedar. Maggie led. We passed a washroom and pantry into a back parlor lit by a single high window. Everywhere, photographs on walls, on shelves, in cigar boxes, clipped to string. My face repeated until it felt like a crowd. I lifted one. Me beside a painted wagon in Abilene. I don't remember Abilene. Another me at a church supper, sleeves rolled, icing on my knuckle, beside a laughing woman I didn't know. In a tin box, smaller prints, the square of my jaw, the scab on the chin I broke at 11. You came twice a summer from 5 to 8, Maggie said. Your father sent you with instructions inside your hat. Earl met you and walked you. Till your feet remembered. My father never said. He didn't tell true things that cost him pride, she answered. Earl kept proof for when you doubted. A ribboned bundle lay in a bowl, small pages tied with stove twine. I loosened. It's sketches I'd made, a mule with square ears, a stove pipe like a soldier, 7-stick women with triangle skirts. Underneath I'd written names I will savor, Maggie, Ruth, June, Eliza, Mercy, Birdie, Clarabelle. My crooked R betrayed me. Fever took the winter you were 8, Maggie said. You came back and knew us by our hands, not our names. He wrote to you. He wrote to your mother. Some letters came back, some didn't. You keep saying letters, I said. Where are his? Maggie nodded toward a cabinet with a keyhole worn bright. Clarabelle stepped between. Not yet, she said. Not until you've heard the shape of it. Words cut when opened wrong. What's wrong way? When a man thinks ink excuses him, she said. We won't let you take comfort too soon. A scent reached through years' soap, coal smoke. I saw a hand Earl's, I think steadying my head while Maggie counted time. The vision passed and left me raw. Tell me straight, I said. What was this house to me? Home for your right self, Maggie said. A place where no one hit the table when you spoke. And to you? Sanctuary, Bertie said the first time she'd spoken. He taught us how to disappear while standing still. I studied a photo. Me on the porch with Earl, his. Posture the kind men have when they finish a fence and decide to trust it one night. My child hand reached toward his. I had drawn that hand 100 times without knowing whose. Why me? I asked. Why keep me like a watchman? Because. A promise needs a memory to live in, Maggie said. He believed yours would come back and carry what he couldn't. And if it didn't, then we would keep each other until the weather turned. We did that anyway. Clarabelle crossed her arms. We're not asking for tears. Can you? Sit still long enough to hear how the work was done? The proofs were everywhere. Pride slackened. I'll listen, I said. Good, she said, not reaching for the key. Smaller makes room. Maggie poured coffee. When we've had it, we'll tell you about the room. I set the picture down. The house breathed with me, and my life echoed back from a place I hadn't let myself believe was mine. Dusk put a lid on the rooms. Windows gave back our faces. Maggie thumbed the lamp to a coal. Voices, Bertie whispered. 3 sets of boots crossed the yard, a laugh pretending friendly. Evening, a man called. Business with the air. Clarabelle's. Hand cut the air and the room changed shape without noise. June checked the back latch. Ruth rolled a quilt against the threshold to swallow sound and pressed a revolver into my palm. Loaded, she said. Knuckles patted the door like a man. Gentling a horse he meant to steal. Another voice moved along the wall, testing frames. We heard the airs alone and sensible. The first call. Maggie set me where the hall met the front room. We do not shoot first, she said. A pane clicked. Mercy tapped twice on the sill signal. The knob turned and held. The parlor. Window flexed. A third pair of boots paused beneath the high window of the photo room. Time, Clarabelle breathed. The drill unfolded. Bertie lifted a floorboard, brought up the short scattergun, fed it, set it by Maggie's skirt. Ruth slid. The clock face and palmed the sleeve pistol. Eliza tightened a cord from the back knob to the table leg. June took the poker and settled. The high window, unlatched with a kitten sigh. A brim, then a pale face eased over the sill. He swung in, boot-toe finding the chair placed years ago for Gravity's visitors. He didn't see me. His hand went to a knife he thought was a key. Now, Clarabelle said. Maggie stepped away, clearing the strip of floor to the door. Silas, she called. Open it. I understood. The house could hide us, but we wouldn't be mice. I walked to the entrance and lifted the bar. Evening washed in copper and dust. On the porch 2 men turned, smiles ready, guns low. The clamor behind me froze at weather he hadn't forecast. I'm Silas Ward, I said, stepping out where my grandfather had stood. You wanted business. Say it where we can see. One carried a ledger and the polished look of a man who owned only debts. The other wore a blank that promised contents. Their eyes hunted past me and stopped when they met 7 women who didn't. Bend, no upset, the ledger man said. Holtz, we can be helpful. This your place? It is tonight, I said. Talk quick. Keep your hands with your mouth. Behind me, the intruder's breath changed shape. A small click said Ruth's pistol had entered his thinking. Holtz tried a wider smile. We heard about probate confusion. Clean way through. Cash for quiet. No courts. What stories? I asked. Oh, the kind towns make when they count women and years and husbands, he said. You show us courtesy, we show you mercy. Cold slid down, then steadied. You came after dark to show mercy, I said. Here's mine, the door. Stays open. Holtz tipped his head. Friendly, son? Just see the room and the papers we brought. You'll show me nothing inside, I said. Spend your words here. I stay where you can count me, I said. You tell your business to my face. Behind me, the house aligned, the cord tight, the floorboard closed. Fear hardened into a tool. I'd come with papers. I stood as a post set deep. Holtz tipped his chin, and the man beside him unclasped a leather satchel. Buckles clicked. Holtz drew out 2 sheaves, one tied with twine, one with blue ribbon, and let the porch feel the whisper of paper. Found these in a foreman's trunk at the Lone Bell office, he said. Unfiled deeds. Witnessed. Never filed. From Earl Ward to women. 7 women. He read names, then smiled. Tidy, except the county never saw them. You know what unfiled is, son? A wish? Maggie didn't blink. He was careful. Careful. And crooked, Holtz said. These ambitions suggest a purpose. Jurors might call it a ring. Editors might call it a nest. I call it leverage. Clarabelle's fingers tightened on the rail. Your price. Mercy, Holtz said. Take our cash bills and ride away by sundown 3 days from now. Leave the keys, leave the stories, leave the pictures. We'll do the tidy work. What work? I asked. The 7 husbands, he said almost kindly. That's the phrase I'd use. 7 husbands gone early. 7 widows snug on a dead man's land under a dead man's signature. I can make drums out of anything hollow. Holtz tapped the blue ribbon bundle. We also found accounts, safety sheets, output tallies, and a curious gap big as a payday. A marshal might call it embezzlement. He might say Earl Ward ran sainthood as a front for theft. Theft hung in the heat. I tasted old coffee and a hand steadying my head. Earl built something right. He hid something hard. "What's your cash?" I asked. Holtz's smile widened. The other man thumped a newsprint bundle. 3,000, Holtz said. "Enough to cure nostalgia. And if I say no, then we test the county's appetite for 7 widows and 1 lost heir." "How long?" 3 days. Maggie's glance held decades. Pride would kill us. Panic would hand us rope. Earl's voice in my head. "Not fast, boy. Smart." "All right," I said. 3 days. Bring your best paper and daylight and try to stand on it." He blinked, misreading bone for surrender. Wise. "Leave the satchel," I said. He laughed. "Why would I?" From the photo room came a small thump. Mercy opened the door enough for Holtz to glimpse his climber bound to a chair, cord at wrists, eyes wide. "Because he brought it through our window," I said. "Contraband stays." Holtz weighed the porch, the 7, the open door, the night then. "Chose theater over loss. Sweethearts, 3 days." He left without the SATCHEL dot inside. We tied the intruder and set him under the high window he'd used. Clarabelle slit the twine and laid papers on Earl's table. Deeds witnessed, ink bled but legible. The blue ribbon stack smelled of oil and damp. At the bottom a smaller packet bore Earl's hand. "If he comes home without letters, give him these." And a night's quiet dot. My stomach fell the way it does when a horse misses a step. Someone meant to use my ignorance like a tool. "We've got 3 days," I said. "We read, sleep in turns, eat, write what the law understands. Then we see who believes their own story the hardest." Maggie nodded. "Coffee," she said. "Coffee." I answered and reached for Earl's packet with hands that finally felt right on his table. We set the bound intruder in a corner with a cup of water and his hat over his eyes, not for kindness, but because shame makes fewer sounds than fear. When the door bolt slid home, Maggie folded Earl's small packet back into my hands and said, "We'll speak plain now." We circled the table like a council that had earned its right to meet. Clarabelle stood, palms flat. "There were 7 men," she said. Mine swung fists like they were pointing. Mercy's husband counted her. Breaths like coins. Ruth's wouldn't let her hang wash unless he could see the cloth. The others took their shape from those kinds. You know that sort. I did. I'd ridden enough nights to hear a man's ugliness through thin walls. Earl made this house for stopping, Maggie said. Not killing, stopping. He taught us to buy time and make it cost the buyer. Elbows, escape, holler, witness, Bertie recited, like catechism. On the wall above the sideboard I saw 4 words burned small in 2. Wood, knock, name, light, witness. Then the mine happened, Clarabelle said. The accident, I said. She watched me. Your ear hears what town called it. Our ears know timing. Earl did figures with us, not to us. He knew when shifts changed and when drunks turned bold and how tunnels breathe in heat. He said, "We don't tug snakes from holes and call it." Mercy, he waited. For what? For them to choose the thing that would break them, she said. They were stealing from the lone bell skimming whore, selling out the back through a man like Holtz. Earl heard it from a boy who didn't want to grow into that shape. He wrote letters to you, to men he trusted. We told him to leave you alone, but he said a promise needs a witness. My throat worked. The letters gone from me like rain off tin. On a Sunday when the ground was dry and their pride wasn't. They pushed a cut deeper than the shoring could forgive, Maggie said. Earl had warned the foreman quiet. He'd posted the poor. Truth in 3 places where it would be ignored on purpose. He'd told the preacher to ask for the men by name that morning. They went anyway. And the tunnel fell, I said. It sighed, June whispered. Like a roof too tired. No one set a fuse. No one pulled a pin. Gravity did the arithmetic. But the choice was counted ahead of time. Did Earl? Maggie met my eyes. And didn't flinch. He made sure the cage couldn't carry more weight than was safe, she said. He made sure the backup lamps were at the top, not the bottom. He made sure the tally boy 12 had a toothache and a dime for the chime. Dentist that day. He set the world so the cruelest men met only the rules they'd been breaking. Silence poured through us like cool water. The intruder shifted under his hat. They died, I said. They did, Clarabelle answered. Not because we pushed, but because they leaned. The town called it a tragedy. We called it room to breathe. Earl called it an end to a theft. Theft of wages, of bodies, of whole days. And the gold they skimmed? I asked. Clarabelle's mouth went thin. Hidden, she said. Not here, not far. Might be useful, Ruth said. Men like Holtz speak fluently in metal. Maggie touched Earl's packet and slid it toward me. Read him, she said. I untied the string and found 6 pages in Earl's hand tight, slanted, the script of a man who wrote at a table that rocked. He named each woman, each danger, each practice. He wrote of me as if I were 2 people, the boy who remembered and the man who didn't. He admitted fear the law would hear only the loudest story. He asked me if I came without letters to take the work anyway, because knowing is a luxury and duty isn't. A heat rose that wasn't anger. Shame, yes, for the years I mistook travel for freedom. Pride, too, small and stubborn, that my bloodline had learned to build rooms where bruises could fade. I thought of my father's tight mouth, of the summers erased by fever and a man's pride, of a child's drawing with 7 triangles and my wrong see, what do you need from me? I asked. Guardianship, Maggie said. Not with guns first. With paper and witness and the gall to stand in daylight. Stay. Learn the doors. Take the name they'll throw at you and make it hold a different shape. And when Holtz comes back, we answer with the things he understands, and some he doesn't, Clarabelle said. Paper, names, federal ink, and a story that makes his look small. I set Earl's pages down. Then I'm here, I said, standing into a weight that fit. Not as a landlord. As what he was, I'll carry it as long as you ask. If the law wants a keeper, I'll be that. If the town wants a villain, I'll decide which parts to accept. Outside, night settled honest. Inside, the house exhaled. We poured coffee. We set watches. We opened the cabinet with the bright keyhole. And Clarabelle at last handed me the journal she'd been keeping since she learned to spell. I read until the letters blurred. They were not asking to be saved. They were asking to be believed and left standing. I'll do both, I said. Light made the table an altar. We stacked papers by kind. Deeds, tallies, affidavits Earl had drafted but never signed. The satchel's bottom had a seam that didn't match. Ruth worked it with a butter knife until the false floor sighed. Inside lay oilskin, a wax-sealed letter, and a flat tin stamped with a bird and a shield of the federal eagle. The letter bore my name in Earl's tight, impatient hand. For Silas. When the town gets loud, I broke wax. His voice stood up off the page. He wrote that after the cave in the county men would come hunting shape instead of truth. They'll call it holy if a rich man says it, he'd written. So we carry our story higher. He had petitioned the U.S. Land Office the year I was born, converting the homestead patent into a federal holding held for a minor heir, Silas Ward, trusteeship reverting to me at 21. It made the house and the immediate pasture federal business until transfer complete. Holtz's unfiled deeds meant nothing against that. Inside the tin lay the recorded patent, embossed and dry, and a transfer already executed to me 3 winters back, acknowledged before a federal judge on a traveling circuit day. The stamp was tired and perfect. County can't touch what it doesn't own, Clarabelle said, tapping the eagle with her fingernail. Not cleanly, I answered. Relief didn't feel like a flood. It felt like a floor. We read Earl's notes. Into the morning. He had drawn a chart of the skimming ring names, handoff, which sacks went missing every 3rd Friday. He'd kept receipts in the foreman's handwriting for ore that never reached the weighmaster. He'd copied a boy's confession about being paid to miscount by Mr. Holtz's quiet man. He had written the sermon he wanted the preacher to preach if he died. I testified to breath. Paper is a door, Maggie said. We'll hold it open. I wrote as if my hand had done it for years. We prepared sworn statements, one from each woman about her husband's temper and the days. He came home with ore he had no right to. One from me, as heir and trustee, laying out the patent, the transfer, and the mine's own missing weight. Bertie drafted a notice to the county paper. Ward-Heir invites U.S. Marshal to investigate missing gold and coercion at Lone Bell. No accusations against the dead. Only numbers, dates, and an invitation men like Holtz would hate because it counted. Them in public dot at gray light. We untied our window guest and walked down to the gate. "Carry this to Holtz," I said, handing him a copy of the patent and the paper notice. "Tell him there's coffee on the porch at noon day after tomorrow, and a federal packet on the table if he wants to read it before the marshal does." He looked from the eagle to my face, then to 7 women who weren't begging. He nodded like a man who had been offered a road instead of a ditch, and took it. After he left, I set the table for daylight war. 1 stack for the marshal if he came, 1 for the editor, 1 for Holtz, with just enough ink to let him understand what door he'd been pushing against. We rehearsed who would speak and when. Maggie would say welcome and nothing else. Clarabelle would hold the packet and never offer it. Holtz would have to ask. I would say the words Earl left for me. "This is federal ground until I say otherwise. You are welcome to witness. Where will the gold fit?" Ruth asked. "In the story where it belongs," I said. "Not as a weapon against us, as evidence of theft. If we must show where it sleeps to make the marshal listen, we will do it with our names on the page." Calm replaced the fever that had held me since the porch. The house didn't feel like a secret anymore. It felt like a courthouse with quilts. I could hear Earl's boothiel in how I stacked the pages. I could feel his hand in the way I left the door unlatched so no one could say we hid. "You look like him," Maggie said, not meaning bone. "Not the jaw, the choosing." "I'll borrow his spine," I said. "Tomorrow I'll grow my own." We ate bread. We slept in ladders. In the last hour before dawn, I walked the line of fence Earl had built and thought about the law like weather indifferent, powerful, persuaded only by height and time. By breakfast, I had a plan that didn't need a gun first. Meet them outside. Speak slow. Say marshal twice, eagle once, and put the story where even men who pretend deafness can hear. Day 3 came hard and bright. Coffee on the table, the tin with the eagle, 3 packets tied neat. Clarabelle set a chair so a man had to face the open door and the women at once. I stood with the house at my back and the yard clear. Holtz arrived, with his partner and a 3rd man too clean for our county. "Mornin'," he said. "We brought paper." "So did we," I said. "Federal paper." I let the eagle catch sun and set down the patent and transfer to my name. This ground was federal holding until it passed to me 3 winters back. Any quarrel belongs in another courthouse. "County jurors don't answer to birds," Holtz said. "U.S. Marshals do," I said. "The marshal's copy is here." Holtz tried the old road. 7 widows in there, he said. "I can make a drum from that." "Make it," I said. "We'll print first, dates, weights, names, patent numbers, and an invitation for the marshal to investigate theft at the Lone Bell. Your quiet man's handoff is in our ledger. A boy's affidavit is ready." Silence held. Clarabelle added, "The last piece. There's gold," she said, "skimmed and cashed. We can point to it as evidence." The clean man drew a card, not a gun. "Witnesses are worth more than suspects," I said. "And blackmail reads poorly in a marshal's hand." Holtz measured the porch, the women who didn't bend, the open door, the eagle, and saw the price of his story. "Say I print anyway," he tried. "Say it," I said. "Then read mine louder." Something in him let go. He tipped his hat to the shape of loss and turned. "Come on," he told the partner. "To me, you think paper's a gun. Paper is a road," I said. "Guns are for men who don't know their way." They went. The clean man left his card, marshal service, and a name. "Send the packet if they rattle you," he said, "or if you decide about the gold." We stood until heat filled the space. "We ride the notice to the paper," I said. "We mail the marshal, we keep the door open." That night we wrote clean copies, signed where it mattered, left blank. What didn't? We sealed the boy's affidavit with a note, "Keep him unnamed in print." Before dawn I put my boot on the ground above the cache. Not to touch it, just to know the earth could speak. At sunrise, I nailed a board above Earl's brand. Knock, name, light, witness. People began to come again, the bruised, the stubborn, those who bring bread. The house looked like itself for the first time since my fever years. "I'm staying," I told Maggie. "I'll carry the porch and the paper." "You already are," she said. I walked the fence and felt the line hold. The ranch wasn't a fortress. It was a map and a vow. I poured coffee, left the door unlatched, and waited for the next knock with Earl's steadiness.